Hey everyone, welcome to Third Shot Podcast, where we share a passion for pickleball and bring the community together. You can find us on our website at thirdshotpodcast.com. We're also on Instagram and Facebook at Third Shot Podcast, as well as Twitter at Third Shot Pod. And today we have Russ back, so we've got a big cheers.
Oh, yeah.
Get your glasses ready to welcome Russ back to the show.
Thank you all.
Welcome back, Russ.
Thank you.
Cheers.
You tell everybody. We kind of teased it while you were gone that you're doing a family vacation. We missed you dearly, but tell everybody what you were doing.
Oh, well, we went to Italy, visited 4 different cities, each one very unique, very different, which was the coolest part of it. Rome, like the history, of like just incredible things to look at. And then you go on to Florence, which is kind of like the wine country here in California. Then let's see, what was next? Then Venice. Like, really? City built on water? You kidding me? Like, that was crazy. And then oh,
did you do a gondola?
Yeah. So that's the big story. The last city was Milan. That was like just going to New York or something. It was yeah. In Venice we did the gondola. Let me tell you, don't do it.
No way, really?
Oh my god! First of all, it's like $100 to a gondola, right? Because it's just tourist thing. So you pay $100 to be terrified for half an hour. This thing is tipping over to one side. And the guy's just like, stepping around, as he's doing his thing. Me and my daughter and my son all thought we were going to just like die. My son goes, hey, how deep is the water here? And I go, I'm not sure. And he's like, that is something we should know. You got a point. Because, it was so slanted, the boat, that on one side there was about a foot between the top of the boat and the water. On the other side, there was about 3 inches between the top of the boat and the water. And the guy was telling us to get onto one side because he was going to stand on the other side. So it was just, I don't think we got a real gondola driver. I think it was just some dude in a striped shirt that just jumped in and did it. But yeah, that was in a word, terrifying. Yeah. So don't do it. $80. To be terrified. I don't know. Wasn't great. But what was great was the pizza. We found this little tiny place. One person running the whole little hole in the wall restaurant making pizza, and it was killer. It was so good. And you could always tell, like, when you're looking around and you see sort of like the locals at these places, it's like, okay, this is good. This is gonna work. So we did this little hole in the wall pizza place, and it was amazing. And it had like 5 stars. I've never eaten at a 5-star restaurant, of like where like every single person that's voting for it has given it 5 stars. And I could see why. It was incredible. Like thin crust pizza. Very unlike earlier pizza. Well, so it's so different. Like I said, like the places are different. Like there's like this thick pizza that you can get, like that we had in Rome, that has so much stuff on it. It was like 3 inches of pizza, like with like prosciutto on it and all this, just everything you can imagine. And it was amazing. Exactly. Also from a small place that we went to, like that was incredible. We went to this. It was like an event set up. I don't know what they were doing. They were throwing flags around and whatnot. And like, okay, well, let's go watch this because whatever. It's a local event.
No, you've ruined it for the rest of your life.
Place where I had the best lasagna I have ever
I was going to ask because I've been told by some people that the toppings that we put on our pizza is like not what is traditional to like Italian pizza. Did you find that to be true?
I really have. It's no good.
I would be shocked.
Yeah, it was totally different. It wasn't. There's no Hawaiian for sure. Um, it was very different. However, I did one of the pizza places that I went to. I think I tried like 5 different pizza places over the time there. But one of them, they had a pepperoni pizza, but it was like 3 different types of pepperoni on the pizza, and it was the spicy pizza. Okay, and this place had all these unique names for pizza. They actually had Donald Trump pizza.
Yeah,
and it
something
was
like that.
Yeah, it had like bacon and French fries and all this stuff. It was pretty funny,
right?
And then they had what's the environmentalist girl, Greta Thunberg? Is that her name? Yeah. They had a pizza named after her. And
did you try anything?
It was
with
like
prosciutto?
like this vegetarian type of pizza, and whatever. So they had all these like unique pizzas, and that's where I tried this one. I can't remember the name of the pepperoni, but it was something like
a prosciutto in Italy is amazing. It's different than a prosciutto in America.
Let's see what this is about. Yes, yeah, that was the thick pizza that we had. The 3-inch pizza had like a ton of that on there. Oh yeah, and it's everywhere. It like we had sandwiches with it. We had just like as an appetizer type of thing. All the breakfasts had that at the breakfast, and they did this like thinly sliced like bacony prosciutto hammy thing that was like just amazing.
Ooh.
So yeah, I did eat my way through Italy. It was awesome. The other thing that I did was I drank my way, but not like alcohol. Espresso. Lots of espresso. You go up to a place, say, "Give me an espresso."
Whoa,
It's
you
New
really
hobby.
$1.50 for this little shot of espresso, and it's amazing. Love that. So I actually bought an espresso machine. I have it in my office.
Yeah, dual purpose.
That's how much I've fallen in love with espresso, which is cool because I put it in here, and here's the cool thing: then the whole office smells like coffee in the morning, which is like.
So have you researched like what kind of Italian
the whole Google thing
espresso
so that I
beans
can
you should use?
just say make me an espresso, and it'll get done. So I gotta make that happen. But
so the other thing I'm curious about is pasta.
I have not yet. I've not gone that far yet, but yeah, I have a feeling I'll be getting there. I bought the brand. I bought a brand that I had there. I had the lasagna, and I had some raviolis. I didn't actually just order like a plate of pasta. I sampled some, but I don't find like just like spaghetti like that exciting. My daughter was loving the carbonara. Yeah, she was loving that. Did sample it. It was great. I can't remember what I had. I had I don't know. One of the meals that I had was like had pasta sauce on it that was amazing. But the lasagna, that was the win.
Stouffer's not going to happen anytime soon.
I'll eat a frozen lasagna again. I don't think it's happening anymore. No. But you guys, the show here, so much. You kept everything running.
It didn't run as smooth as if you were here. Everything was working because there were many times where we were doing the interview and good old Uncle Greg forgot to hit record.
Oh yes.
Oh really?
There was that. There was.
Well, I trained you well because I've forgotten that plenty.
Didn't log out properly or something, and when we got to the next guest, the next time we recorded, that was kind of holding us up a little bit. So, so I did not handle it nearly as well as you. So welcome back. Right. We missed you.
Right.
We did. We made it through though.
Yeah. Right before I left, and I don't know if you guys have announced this yet, but because I don't even know if you guys know this, but right before I left, we hooked up the show to YouTube. So now all the episodes going forward will be on YouTube. Last couple of episodes ran on there. So and we're working on adding video. So right now it's just going to be the audio that you can listen to on YouTube for the show, but pretty soon you'll be able to
Well,
see us.
seeing our
Which I don't
guests,
know if
that's
that's
a good
maybe
thing.
it's a good
Seeing
thing. I don't know.
Bridgie,
Yes.
seeing Bridgie, that's a good thing.
There you go. There you go. So, yeah, if we see Greg, yeah, maybe, but maybe I'll just I'll put up I'll be
Well,
the
it's
eye
kind
guy
of
or
funny
something.
because I do, the shots, right? And typically I kind of go all in on the shots. Well, by the end of the shows, I kind of get that little Asian glow going. So everybody can now see the Asian glow happen on my face.
There you go.
And they can see what
There
we're
you go.
drinking now too, which might be a
There
little
you
fun.
go.
Yeah. Yes. It's exciting. I'm kind of
Exactly.
really looking forward to the video side of it, not because anybody really wants to see us, but see our guests. And now they can demo stuff, right? They could actually,
Exactly.
there are so many times where we're talking to a company owner about their paddles and they're holding up the paddles and explaining it, but people couldn't see it. Well, in the future, that's going to be changed.
And somehow we've got to figure out how to make that work for audio still. So, for you listening now, you don't have to change anything, but you can also go see us on video. So we'll have to throw in there little comments of, okay, we're going to demo this, go check it out on YouTube. Or, maybe here's what we do. We take clips of people demoing something and we throw it on Instagram. Maybe the audio folks can
Nice.
just go check it out.
Good idea.
Good thing we have our tech guy back.
There we go. Oh my God. Problem solved. It was the lasagna that did
That was the espresso. Gave you a shot of energy right
yeah,
there.
that's probably it. All right. Well, so speaking of travel, I hear you got a little travel going on this show.
We do. Our next guest is Michael Boraas. He is the owner of Pickleball Tours, and he's going to join us to talk a little bit about how he's putting together really a high-end kind of concierge-y feel travel plans for pickleball players. Very exciting. So stay tuned for Michael Boraas. Hi, it's Uncle Greg and Bridgie from Third Shot Podcast. We want to tell you about a new game, a modified version of America's fastest growing sport.
A game that you can set up and play anywhere you want.
In the park, in your yard, or our favorite, on the beach.
It's called Sandy Pickle, which is simply pickleball played on soft surfaces, like grass and sand.
Using the same balls and paddles, Sandy Pickle is an all-volley version of pickleball played on a higher net.
It comes as a portable set that includes 4 paddles, 4 balls, a sturdy frame and net, and boundary markers.
And if you use our code, you'll get 10% off. Just enter Third Shot 10, that's Third Shot and the number 10, at checkout and get your discount.
Go to sandypickle.com and get your game.
Welcome back to Third Shot. We appreciate all the support that you've been showing us on our social media accounts. Please keep giving us your feedback and comments on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Go to our website where we have a lot of blogs and articles. So have fun with it. And now let's move forward with our guest. And Bridgie and I have been talking to this gentleman for a very long time, and we've been trying to plan this, but it's tough because Michael Boraas, owner of Pickleball Tours, he's traveling all over the world, but he finally made time, and we got him today. So welcome, Michael. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you, Greg. Really appreciate this.
Yeah, welcome. And we are so excited to finally pin you down. Where are you calling in from today?
Yes. So, and my apologies, it's been a little hectic, but I'm in Brussels, Belgium. It's my first time here. Selfish reasons. I'm trying to hit 60 countries by a certain date. And so this was one of them in Western Europe that I had never been to. So I flew here this morning, and here we are. So I'll take the train over to London tomorrow. But I was able on this trip over to Europe to get 2 more countries on my bucket list. So,
Well,
or my experience list.
Yeah,
we should cheers to it.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's
just totally.
Cheers.
Cheers.
It's
Knocking
6
off
o'clock
those
for me.
sleeves.
Totally. 6 p.m. for me, but I am fired up.
Ready to go. I love the energy. So you get to do a lot of traveling, and you've mixed it with a passion of yours, which is pickleball. So can you tell us, how did you get into pickleball, and maybe what's the story behind it?
Yeah, so good question, I guess. So I had been in a corporate role up until about 6 years ago. And I was working for a software company. And, quite frankly, I was getting a little burned out, just kind of running out of gas. I took a sabbatical, and not many people had ever requested anything like that at the company. But I essentially got a week for every year that I've been with the company. So I took a 3-month sabbatical with paid time off, and I had a volunteer time off,
Wow.
which they paid us for, which was absolutely incredible. And then I went back to work after that 3 months, and it just wasn't quite the same. A lot of people don't come back from sabbaticals. They use that kind of as a springboard, and that's what I did. So I did leave the workforce, and then I was trying to determine what was next. And I met a friend, and he said, "What do you want to do?" And I started talking about travel, and my hands start moving, and I started getting really excited. And he said, "I didn't see that excitement when you were talking about your day job." And that's what really resonated for me. So at that moment, it clicked. And then I was teaching tennis just as kind of a side gig at the time. I saw these people playing pickleball. And so I went to work teaching tennis or pickleball, at Lifetime Fitness in Minneapolis, which is where I was living. And then in 2019, I was kind of tired of the winters, and I wanted to play pickleball outside. So I got my dog and drove to San Diego, and
Nice.
And that was right before COVID. So I started a company called Bold North Tours initially, and that was the idea to bring groups of people over to Europe from the U.S. However, once I discovered pickleball, I was hooked. I was all in, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to combine pickleball and travel together. And so with COVID, of course, we got off to kind of a rocky start. But so now we're at it in earnest, really going for it, and very excited.
So tell us a little bit about Pickleball Tours. Now you're combining pickleball, you're combining travel, you're kind of really getting this rolling. You have one amazing tour that's already on the calendar. Tell us what can people expect?
Yeah, so really for us, I mean, the emphasis is around customized, curated, consultative experiences that would be for somebody's milestone, life event or anniversary or something like that, where we could really, it comes down to those 3 C's that I feel like will be a differentiator. And so the other emphasis is really around international destinations, because we see some of these emerging markets pop up. And I did some of that research while I was here. There's about 30,000 players currently in Europe. And so the original travel business that I had that wasn't pickleball related still had some of the same components or elements to it. And that was really, the tagline was promoting the movement of travel. So the fact that we were more focused on wellness, getting people out, I'd heard from a lot of my students, they wanted to relearn how to use their bodies again because they were stuck at a desk or on airplanes or doing work and being very sedentary. So the focus has always been around movement. So I say that our vision is really to extol the virtues of pickleball for the greater good, that bring together these elements of physical health, mental health, wellness, and so forth. So I met a woman that was already in the active travel business. My partner, Mary, she's in Fort Collins, and she's already had a company in that space. So initially, we were just doing trips where I could kind of piggyback on her existing active wellness retreats. And then pickleball was a value add for those retreats. And then she discovered, wow, this pickleball thing is really taking off. Like, pickleball could be the main show, and that sort of thing. But we really do want to focus on vacations with pickleball. And so that means it's going to be a holistic approach where you can hike, you can do yoga, meditation. There's all these other good things that come with it. So we are looking at, for example, Canyon Ranch, if you're familiar with them. Mary's there right now doing some research, and that one's got some good potential because they're now going all in on pickleball. They've built new courts, and that's a really good demographic that we want to pursue.
I think that's so smart to combine pickleball with the health and wellness type of retreat because there's so many benefits to playing. You've got the social aspect and obviously the exercise piece of it as well. So sign me up for that next trip.
I know, I know. And they
Well,
tie in together because I've been trying to combine yoga stretching with,
yes.
my
Yeah.
pickleball, before I play and after I play. So that kind of works perfectly for me.
It's a really good compliment. And you talk about being up at the kitchen when things start to get moving a little too fast, maybe,
Yeah.
and you
Mhm.
need that presence. There's elements of yoga that are really good. I teach kind of a chair pose also, which is basically what your position should be while you're at the kitchen. And that's another kind of cool kind of carryover from
Yeah.
yoga. So, if you look at just this perfect confluence or convergence of, the demographics, the number of people playing pickleball, the aging of America, what they call the silver tsunami, 10,000 people turn 65 every day. And and what do retirees want to do? They want to travel, right? And
Yes.
so I just think that right now is such a perfect opportunity to bring those things together. Um,
I'm not even retired and I just want to travel and play pickleball. So
well, I
The
know,
dream
and
for
that's where
many,
I
right?
was. And I had every intention to continue working, and that was the subject of my last newsletter, which is, we all have kind of these mile markers where if we could just do 5 more years of work, then everything's going to work out perfectly. Well, we know that life gets in the way sometimes when you're making plans. And so that was the one thing that I didn't want to regret as I got older, which was the opportunity to really get out there and do the things that I love, and to share those things with groups. And
Yeah,
that's really
that's
what Pickleball
wonderful.
Tours is all about.
So, Uncle did mention that you have a trip on the books. Can you share with us what that's going to look like for those who've signed up and getting ready and packing for it?
Absolutely. And so this was another trip where my business partner had this one on the books. She came to me and said, lo and behold, there's a pickleball court on the ship. It's a river cruise, 7 days. The emphasis was around golf initially, but then we discovered there's a big push for pickleball. And we started in I call it the Budapest to Oktoberfest,
Oh,
right? So
wow.
we go from
Fun.
Budapest, Hungary, all the way to Oktoberfest in Germany. And you get to see some of these majestic, iconic, beautiful European cities in Central Europe, which is really the part of Europe that I love the most, quite frankly. So that's coming up. And what I've sat in a presentation, it's with AMA Waterways. And a lot of these tour companies are recognizing also that there's, a lot of potential with pickleball. The ability to pull up right in the middle of these beautiful cities in the city center and then do all these fun excursions through the city, whether it's a walking tour, different endurance levels as well, which I think is kind of nice. And so it's really for everybody. And so pickleball is another piece to that where we're just bringing a lot of fun to the experience.
it's so funny, Michael, that you mentioned that originally it was going to be a golf thing, and then it
I
kind
saw
of
your ears perk up.
oh my goodness, because I don't think you know this about me, Michael, but I'm a big time golfer. I
uh,
help coach the high school golf team here in my area. And just what days a day? Well, a couple of days ago, I went golfing with my other golf coaches, and one of them said he's leaving. Actually, he's leaving today to go down to Mexico with it's
mm.
kind of a guide trip. There's four of them going down to Mexico, and I go, "Well, aren't you going to golf down there?" And he goes, "No, actually, Greg, we're just going to play pickleball." And these are golf
Whoa.
coaches, right? And they're bringing the pickleball
Absolutely.
gear and they're playing pickleball instead of golfing. So
Well,
I think
yes.
as part of wellness, you should figure out a little bit of a golf excursion as well on these trips. I think it fits
Well,
perfectly.
Absolutely. And I did talk to another individual who's in the travel pickleball space recently. He's in California, and he wants to take what's already been in place for a lot of golf excursions and kind of mimic that concept for pickleball. And there's no reason that it can't be done because it's already happened for golf, right? I'm not a golfer, but I know that can be a very addictive sport as
Yeah.
well. Also very difficult.
Yes.
So, I think there's some good opportunity to really kind of take the playbook for what, many of these tour operators have done for golf.
Well, what I've seen on a lot of these trips is, a lot of times it tends to be just kind of one of the two spouses going on these golf trips because the other spouse doesn't play golf. But what if the other spouse plays pickleball? Now there's something
Right.
for both, and then a couple of
Absolutely.
days on the trip, both people can play pickleball. I totally see this. I got this,
Yeah.
Michael. I got this. Sign me up.
Okay, good. Yes, you be our expert for the golf side of things because I know nothing about it.
Well,
But
that's kind of
you're right. You're absolutely right. And one person might like this, another person like that. That really ties into kind of this notion of customization that we talk about. So it's our approach is very customer driven. We want to build an ecosystem of travel partners, dedicated countries where we can't be all things to everybody. So we need to get tied in with a few key resorts in a few key countries. And then our objective now is to really build out our customer base and really expand it for those individuals that are looking for these types of experiences. There's been a lot of press recently. In the Wall Street Journal, for example, I read an article the other day about people want to pack their paddles when they go on holiday. I mean, they want to be active, and God bless them.
Yeah, we've talked about it before, Uncle and I both, when we've been planning for trips. It's, now it's a priority to kind of look around and find out where the courts are at the destination that we're going to so that we can
Exactly.
incorporate it in some aspect.
So another thing that we've done is over the past, wow, it's been 3 years or so now, where we've just been logging data about all of the various resorts that we've either visited, researched, or have references from other individuals within this travel network. And so we're just sharing this, spreadsheet out amongst our community, and they're providing input. So it's kind of an open source, a platform where we could just take data on all the resorts that have pickleball.
That's going to be super resourceful for people. I
Yeah.
could see that database becoming very valuable. We were talking to a previous guest, and he went over to Hong Kong. And
Mhm.
when he was over in Hong Kong, he didn't realize that there aren't any pickleball courts. He couldn't find any pickleball courts. It's very popular. It's growing sport, but it was difficult. So they were just popping up courts with out of their trunks. They were bringing their own nets and bringing their own tape just to kind of create their own courts. So if you were able to help people in different countries find stuff as they're traveling, I think that's
Well, and
extremely
that's another
helpful.
thing I'm looking at as well, is that these countries do need support and individuals that can provide some type of resource consulting, or how do you really set up a good pickleball community. Because I go to Colombia, they play on a basketball court. I'm on their WhatsApp group. They are the happiest people in the world. And they're temporary nets, and it rains. And if it doesn't rain, it's going to rain shortly. And
Right.
so they are the happiest people I've
Well,
met.
I think that's what pickleball really brings to people. So
Absolutely.
Truly, yeah.
yeah. So we got to take a quick break.
Sure.
But when we come back, let's talk a little bit more about what Pickleball Tours has coming up.
Okay.
So
Sounds
we'll
great.
be right back with Michael Boraas of Pickleball Tours.
Hey, it's Russ, producer of the Third Shot podcast. And as you know, if you're a listener, I'm one of those beginner players. And well, you know what? It's great because single, double, pickleball, they've got you covered. Yeah, their composite, fiberglass, and honeycomb core paddles are best suited for beginners and intermediate level players. In addition, all single, double paddles come with a beautiful embroidered zip canvas case cover so you can look great showing up to the court. At singledouble.net, you can also shop for 2 and 4 paddle sets and save some money. Speaking of savings, for all of our Third Shot podcast listeners, they are offering a special additional discount of 10% off your entire purchase. Just use code THIRDSHOT10. Again, that's THIRDSHOT10. Pickleball is a fun way to get active, make new friends. Whether you're a beginner like me or you already love to play, Single Double will give you the confidence to crush your competition on the court.
Welcome back to Third Shot Podcast. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit that subscribe or follow button so that you don't miss one of our awesome episodes. Today we are with Michael Boraas with Pickleball Tours, and I think we're ready for our third shot. He's in a really cool place. This deserves an additional shot because he's knocking off bucket list cities.
I mean, I think it's happy hour, right?
Yeah,
Where you're
somewhere.
at.
right?
Happy
Well,
hour
definitely
somewhere, as
where
they
I'm
say.
at. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll
And
celebrate
they
with
have
you.
some of the best beer in the world comes from Belgium.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So
you
have you
know.
found a favorite in Belgium so far? A favorite
Well, I
beer?
haven't had really
you
a
just
whole lot
got
of
there.
time. I went to
just
the
got
gym, I checked in, and now
now you're
after
here with
a
us.
call, and
Yeah.
I'm here with you, which is great. But then I'll head out and explore after a call.
Very cool. Well,
here's a
cheers
little
to your
pregame.
travels.
Yeah, cheers.
French fries, I think that's a popular thing here. Mussels,
Oh, really?
a lot of mussels, yeah. So we'll see what's out there.
So before the break, we were chatting a little bit about customizable trips, and I have never had the chance to go on a customizable trip. So can you explain a little bit about what is customizable when creating a pickleball trip?
Yeah, so we've done some other trips and it gave me a good opportunity to do a review after, send out feedback, what works, what didn't. And so, our trips have been great, but I think the area that we could fine tune a bit more is to really focus on getting the chemistry right. By doing that, what I would like to do is find a host or a trip sponsor for trips that come to me, and we make it very customer driven so that they can say, look, it's a retirement party. We want to go to Turks and Caicos. Here are requirements. We want this amount of pickleball versus, is it a vacation with pickleball, or are we really looking to up level your pickleball game so that it's more pickleball with a vacation, right? So I think our emphasis is that through kind of a thorough process of really understanding our customers, what they want, and then also getting that chemistry piece right. Yeah, I always say we want to develop, people for trips rather than, trips for people, right? So, with the trips that we've done, we go out, we get a venue, and then we go out and recruit a bunch of people, right, for the trip. Whereas now we want to say, well, it's a certain milestone or an event that you have, and we've got 8 to 10 people, which is kind of right in our sweet spot of how many folks that we can take on a trip, to keep the ratio in line with the amount of attention that we can give them for instruction. And then we pick a destination. We go through a real thorough kind of consultative process where it's curated, customized, customer driven, and that's what we're really looking for.
That would be so cool, right?
Yeah.
Like I've been talking about golf and pickleball. I mean, you could do something and yoga. It
Yeah.
sounds like you could set something up really, really fun for somebody like myself. And
Right.
multiple interests.
And I think really it's just, developing a customer base where these people, you build trust, you build relationships, and then you have this real 360-degree view into your customer to find out exactly what they like, and then hopefully that translates into retention, repeat customers and referrals. So the 3 R's they say there is that, we want to develop a base of customers that, are really loyal to our brand.
Well, we've been talking about all these wonderful international destinations, but do you do anything domestically as well too?
Yeah, so that was really the start of what we were doing. We went to St. George. There's a beautiful resort there, Red Mountain. We are looking at Canyon Ranch, which is in Tucson, Arizona. There are some really nice things. Canyon Ranch ties in with the wellness aspect very well because they actually they have medical staff on site. There's guest speakers, and it's all focused on wellness and health. And I think back to when I retired, or when I took this sabbatical that I referenced earlier. I was burned out and I found a retreat in Thailand, and I went there, and it was just to detox. It was just to decompress. Put your phone in the safe, don't pick it up for a week. Digital detox. If you want to sleep, you can do that. Focus on healthy food. And so I think that a trip like a Canyon Ranch would really be a nice fit. There are several options also in California that we have notes on and that we've looked at as well. There's one in Sonoma that we are, tentatively exploring. And so there are some good domestic opportunities for us as well.
That sounds wonderful. I think everybody can really benefit from a digital detox. That would be great.
Well, absolutely. Get into the Zen moment of things. And, the other thing is, I have to be honest, price of travel right now is high. And I'll just throw it out there. There's this revenge travel, they're calling it. I've seen it on this trip here. People are back to it and they want to get out there. Europe is a big destination. The other thing is that I think there's a good opportunity to take groups from other countries to the U.S. And so we have the infrastructure. If they want to play a tournament, if they want to watch a professional tournament, that's another thing that down the road we would like to look at.
Wow. So aside from creating trips for other people, it sounds like you're getting ready to have people come to you. And you also had mentioned to us too that in Boise, you've started setting up excursions or pickleball related excursions for folks. Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. So yeah, my goal has been, I've been in Boise for a few years to really build up my network of contacts there. I started when I first started playing pickleball, the way I got introduced to it was through a meetup group. And I don't know if you know meetup.com, but I had never heard of pickleball. I show up at this meetup group. It's kind of like tennis and, table tennis. And I loved it. And then I took a community ed class where I played in a gym in the middle of winter in Minnesota. And I loved it. And so I took the idea of, well, why don't I become an organizer and set up a meetup group? I get new requests almost every day for my meetup group in Boise. And so I'm up to 650 people in the group.
Wow.
And there's just this huge amount of interest. And so I do some beginner basics, and that's where I found really the sweet spot. There's so many people that want to just learn the basics. And I think there's a real competitive advantage by getting the right information when you first start out playing pickleball. And so I've done these kind of beginner to lower intermediate basics classes, and they fill up within 20 minutes. And it's been a really fun way for me to then hopefully promote some tours to some of my client base. So that's how I've been really going about the marketing side of things there, and just doing some instruction. And then in addition to that, I've got an Airbnb experience where if you go to a certain city, I basically live in an Airbnb right now, I have to admit, because I do travel so much. So you go to book an Airbnb in a certain city, and then you're fed recommendations about experiences, things that you can do while you're visiting the city, whether it's active or whatever it is that you're, excited about. Hiking, running groups. There's so many different things based on your interest. So I've also got an experience for folks that are coming through Boise that are staying in Airbnbs, and I teach pickleball. So that's worked out really well as well.
That's cool. So it sounds like when you set these up, you're setting them up for any level of pickleball player. It doesn't matter they're a beginner or a 5-0.
Yes, that's true. Although the lion's share of individuals are those that are coming in at a 2.5 up to 3.5, call it, level, and they just want to learn. I mean, they're so hungry to learn, and they've got this thirst for they're hungry and thirsty, hungry to learn, thirst for knowledge, and they come out to the courts and they're so excited. And that's the area that I really see as a good demographic for our trips, as well. So it's a certain type of individual that we're looking at, and I think that kind of really fits the mold well, are these kind of beginner basics. And then the other pain point that I hear from a lot of my students, two things actually. One is people want to really, if they're mid-career, and I mentioned this in my last newsletter, or if they're exiting the workforce, COVID forced a lot of people into early retirement. They want, if they had desk jobs like I did, or they were very sedentary, they want to relearn how to use their body again. They want to get out and be active again later in life. And it's so exciting that pickleball can really help them do that. And so that's another area that we're finding a lot of success with.
That's great. And I did see too in that newsletter you mentioned that Pickleball Tours hosted a Picklepalooza event. Now, was that geared towards those 2.5 to 3.0 kind of beginners that are looking for more practice and skill practice? How did that go?
So you may hear from some of your other podcast guests that, if they're teaching, one of the hardest things to get your arms around is the different level of player when you're teaching. So this group I asked the group, we had 50 people show up. I said, how many people have been playing less than 6 months? Half the group raised their hand. And of those people, I asked how many people had never, ever played at all. And a large percentage of their hands went up. The other half went over to the other side. They had been playing more than 6 months. And so it's a good question that you bring up, because the second thing I was going to mention about the pain points that I hear is that people want to meet other people at their level. And there's a lot of fear, tendency to just not put themselves out there and to show up at the courts if they're just starting out. There's a lot of fear and angst that goes along with that. And so, for me, what I found successful is just these social events like Picklepalooza, where we say, look, we're going to get a lot of people out on the court. There's going to be music. We're going to have our partners, stretch partners, yoga partners, head pickleball we had on site as well for demos and so forth. But you bring all of those together in a fun social atmosphere with pizza and so forth. And then you watch the group kind of, work the room kind of, or work the courts. And that was really fun to see, is that now we're making connections. I've always said one thing in my corporate recruiting background was bringing people together. It's one of the things that gets me most excited. When I see groups that are finding the right chemistry and getting along really well, that's when I feel like I'm having success.
Well, it sounds like everything you're doing is so helpful. You mentioned the wellness side of what happened during the pandemic is so many people kind of got stuck, right? They couldn't go out, they couldn't do the social things, they couldn't do the things for their body, the activities that they were doing prior. It happened to me.
Yeah.
Once the pandemic hit, I was a very active person, did a lot of different sports. And then the pandemic hit, and for like 2 years, I was just sitting at my desk doing Zoom meetings, right?
Exactly.
And my body basically kind of shut down. And pickleball has kind of got my body moving again and active, and
Right.
gets that competitive spirit
Right.
going. And it's just great for the mind and the body.
Yeah, and so the New York Times had a piece calling pickleball the perfect pandemic sport. I mean, the sport grew by 30% during COVID. You're naturally about 6 feet apart. You're outdoors. Thankfully, I was in Palm Springs playing at the time where it was open and our courts didn't shut down. And so I did play a good amount of time through the pandemic. But as you say, I mean, it was just the perfect timing for pickleball to really make a surge because it got people. And we know the negative side effects of, we're dealing with all these crises, right? So we've got a loneliness crisis. Now the Surgeon General has just, come out and said that's one of our big crises. We've got a mental health crisis. We've got, overworking and people stressed out. Pickleball is kind of like the analgesic kind of thing for these maladies.
Yeah. And then when you combine it with travel, like, how can it not be beneficial to somebody?
Absolutely. Well, and then the travel thing really comes from I'm inspired by new places. And so I know there are other travel businesses out there where they'll bring entrepreneurs and so forth because your best thinking sometimes comes in a very beautiful, unique destination where you feel that energy. And so that's another benefit that comes with it.
Yeah. Well, Pickleball Tours is definitely adding to the community of pickleball globally. So for those listeners who may be interested in an up and coming trip or just checking out what you're doing over there with Pickleball Tours, where can they go to find that?
So go to pickleballtours.com and then there's a submission form where I could get your email. I will add you to my newsletter list if you opt in, and that's going to give you the latest updates. And I do a newsletter about once a month. And so that's a great way. You could also follow me on Instagram at Pickleball Tours, as well as I do have Pickleball Austria. So that's another area where if you are looking for an excursion over to Europe, then we could certainly talk about that because that ties in really well with my previous business of bringing groups over to Central Europe. So I would say go to the website, check us out. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm all over the place. I've hired somebody now to help me out just to get the word out and do things like this, for example, with your company. So I really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for your time. I chuckled when you say you're all over the place because literally you are all over the place.
Yeah.
I know. And I'm a little homesick now. I have to say I miss my dog, but I'll be back in a couple days. So then I'm planning to go to Colombia in August. And I'm very excited for that because that is an area that I think has some real potential down the road. A lot of Americans don't think about it. They've got this preconceived notion that's unsafe and so forth. But if you go to the right areas and it's well planned and you know what to look for, we are looking to build up that community down in Colombia. And they already have. In fact, they're part of the new federation. And so there's a lot of good things that are happening down there. And I wrote about it in my last newsletter, how the weather is very conducive in certain parts. And it's just a beautiful place.
Yeah, it did look beautiful. The photos, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And, I call it the beat inflation vacation.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Yeah, because of the price difference.
Well, if you have a piece of luggage that can fit me in it, please just sneak me in. I would love to kind of check Colombia out. Thanks so much.
I was overweight on my luggage today, but we certainly could try.
Well, I'll start dieting so we don't get it.
Good idea. I would.
Thanks so much for coming on today.
All right.
Thank you, Michael.
Really appreciate it.
And thank all of you for joining us today on Third Shot, where Bridgie and I will continue to share our pickleball journey. Special thanks to Michael Boraas for joining us from Pickleball Tours. Please go check out his website, pickleballtours.com, and on Instagram. Like you said, he's everywhere. Look up Pickleball Tours, Pickleball Austria. And you can support this show by subscribing, and we promise to have more amazing guests just like Michael in future episodes. So let's continue to share our enjoyment for the game and grow the pickleball community. See you next time on Third Shot Podcast.